So I've been doing van life for about, I think we're going on like 6 years now. So it's been a very long time. I've had lots of experience, lots of stories, lots of things have gone wrong, a lot of things have gone right. And today they asked me to talk about how to not ruin van life, which it's very easy to do, surprisingly, because you can really get burnt out on so many different things. And I feel like recently I got burnt out on van life during my van build. Building out a van is extremely difficult. I think the internet makes it look so easy. You watch a time lapse and it goes by in like 12 minutes. And then I spent 2.5 years on my van build, but I also made a 12-minute time lapse. So I understand how the internet can make things look. So I want to just talk a little bit about just different things you can do to make sure that when you get into van life, you are making the most of it and making sure it can last. I'm just kind of curious, how many people here currently live in a van? Okay, are you guys full-time? Raise your hand if you're full-time. Okay, who's thinking about getting into van life? Okay, awesome. So, oh, I just lost all of my notes. Okay. Okay, so some of the things I'm going to talk about might resonate with some people, might not, because van life is so different for every single person. The experiences you're going to have, whether you're full-time, part-time, you're in a minivan, you're in a $300,000 rig. I mean, rigs get more expensive. I don't even know what they're putting in them these days that makes it so expensive. But it's just going to be different no matter what you're doing. Even if you have the exact same rig and you're traveling to the same places, you're going to have different experiences because everyone has different wants and different needs. So starting with realistic expectations and knowing that when you watch on the internet is not going to be realistic expectations, which is why being here is so awesome, because walking around and meeting people and talking to them, that's going to give you much better just conversations about what's really happening and meeting real people, because the internet, I've been doing social media now for 3 years, and the drama sells, the drama gets you views, and so you're going to see a lot of bad things on the internet, of everything going wrong, and that's what the internet's going to push to you, because that's what makes them money, unfortunately. But it's important to know that what you're seeing on the internet is not completely true. But one of the greatest resources that I found is Facebook groups. So if you're thinking about getting into van life and you want to have authentic conversations, but maybe you're watching on the live stream and you can't be here, joining Facebook groups, there's so many real people having daily discussions of real problems without any intentions or any kind of like looking for views or anything like that. They're genuine conversations of what van life's really like. And also, if you're building out a van, I had so many questions that were so weird. Like, I had to put my microwave in and I had no idea how to tie it down because of the shape it was. And I was like, there's no YouTube video of how to tie down microwaves in a camper van. So being able to just post a photo and be like, hey guys, and then 2 hours I had 56 different ideas of how to tie down a microwave, which I then had it done within an hour. And I spent like 2 weeks thinking about it before I made that post. And so they're so resourceful and they're so helpful. Let's see. A big thing as well is when you're having realistic expectations is just embracing the insanity and the unknown. Van life is insane. I've seen things. I've been through things. One moment you're like laying in bed watching a TV show, and the next someone's like fighting and screaming at their spouse and like throwing up next to your van, or someone's knocking on your van saying you can't park there even though you just parked at a gas station, and they just like see you in a van and they know it's a camper and they're like being prejudiced. Anything can happen at any time. And so you have to be aware of that, but also be okay with people kind of having different perceptions of you if you're in van life and you're doing it full time. I know it can be different, again, like however you're doing van life, if you're part-time, if you're in an expensive rig, not an expensive rig. People have ideas of what van life is, and in a way, social media has given it a new light and people understand it more. But I used to work at the Ben & Jerry's ice cream factory in Vermont, and I thought it was cool that I lived in a van. I thought it was the coolest thing because I love it. It is the best choice I ever made. But people found out and they started being like, you can come stay at my house, I can make you dinner, do you want to pick up extra shifts, like what can I do? And I'm like, no, I live in the Ben & Jerry's parking lot because I love it and I think it's cool, and because you don't pay enough, so I don't have to pay rent and I can just come here and eat unlimited ice cream. So it's people don't always understand. So picking the people that you share van life with, and if they're not going to support you, understanding that it's your choice and being so proud of it, and finding people that do accept you and accept van life is really helpful, which is why being here and meeting other van lifers is so great as well. Let's see. Also, if anyone has any questions at any time or any statements or any stories they want to add, just feel free to raise your hand. I would love to make this a community conversation. Going back to talking about social media. So I've been in YouTube and making YouTube videos for about 3 years now. And I remember watching YouTube videos of van life for years before I bought my first van. I used to car camp for about 2 years. I would sleep in my car and I loved it, and I would watch van life videos. And I would like to say that I did believe everything I saw on the internet. I was that person. And now, having been a YouTuber and being in this job and meeting people who make YouTube videos, I really just want to say, everything is not what you see. When you see those really fancy designed vans, they have interior designers that design them for them, and then they put them on social media. They say that they built the whole thing, and they did not build the whole thing. And so I remember when I bought my second van, I bought it and decided to do it because my first van I built out with no build experience, and I built it in my parents' driveway. I had never touched a power tool. I was just trying it. And I remember coming to an event where someone toured my van, and they made me feel really self-conscious about my build skills. And they're not the kind of people you want to be around, for sure. But I remember being self-conscious and then wanting to build another van. And then I learned afterwards, while I'm building this one, they're not even building their own vans. They're hiring people, professionals to do it. And so the people that you're online comparing yourself to and comparing your rig to, they're not even doing it, and they're just not mentioning it. So having real expectations of what the internet is very, very helpful for being proud of what you're doing and knowing that, I love my van. It's very crooked. It's got some crazy cuts in there. I had no idea what I was doing, and I just wanted to get it done and get on the road. And I actually look back now, and I wish that I would have rushed it more and been okay with more wonky cuts, because now that I'm on the road again, I'm I missed this. This is so great. I was camping at Daytona 500 2 weeks ago, and it was incredible. And so spending all that time being so nitpicky over every choice. Insulation, I want to say I spent 2 weeks. I made an hour-long deep cut into insulation and every choice of insulation, and I tested them, and I was so over the top because I was I have to make the right insulation choice. If there was the perfect insulation choice, we would know by now. We would know by now. Everybody has tried different things. We have probably so many vans here that have all different insulations, and everyone is fine. No one's walking around if I had this insulation, what insulation are you using? It's so different in here. So I think having that expectation now and looking back on my build, I'd actually rush it a bit more. That's crazy enough to say. Okay, so something else about burnout is that, for me, something that I've learned to stop burning out from van life is that getting a campground every once in a while, it actually can even out price-wise. If you think about it, you can get your laundry done, you can shower there, you can refill your water, you can do so many things. But also, as someone who always stealth camps and is always looking for parking lots or a Cracker Barrel or random streets, getting a campground can be just the refresh you need before you burn out. When I was living in Las Vegas in 114-degree heat with no air conditioner, I was I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna push it because van lifers are tough and I could do anything. And then I almost got heat stroke and passed out in a hotel walkway until I finally was I'm gonna get a hotel, it's okay. So knowing the limits and knowing when to get a hotel and when to take a break, and also when you're getting near that burnout of being van life's exhausting. Once a year I get my family has a timeshare that they forget about and I don't mention, so I can use it every year at the end of the year. And it is the most refreshing thing. I get there and I'm I actually made a video called Am I Ruining My Life by Doing Van Life? It was very dramatic. But it was a real question I was having, because I woke up in the morning in a bed that was there. I had unlimited running water and a dishwasher, which was magical, and just could do the dishes. And I was life is so simple and I'm making it so hard. And I remember kind of thinking this every year when I get this timeshare, and I made that video and people were yeah, but have you seen the price of rent? And I was you're right, there's give and take. So making a list of all of the great reasons that you're doing van life and all the benefits you can have. I know that's more for full-time van life. I've been doing full-time van life for very long, so I have more of a perspective on that. So that when you have those hard moments or you start to question it, you can go through those lists of things that make it worth it. Can be really helpful. I keep scrolling through as I'm talking. Okay. For ways to not ruin van life as well is talking about the safety of your vehicle and insurance. And I had a friend who bought a brand new camper van, drove it, was driving back to their house, and they totaled it on their first drive. And their insurance was so good that it covered getting a new van that was better. And so it actually worked out for them. So making sure you have good insurance. I kind of had an opposite situation. When I bought my second van, I called State Farm and I was like, hey, I just want to switch over my insurance to this new van, also a Ram ProMaster, also 2500, the exact same thing, just like 2 years newer. And they're like, we don't cover Ram ProMasters. We didn't cover that. And I'm like, well, what have I been paying you for? And they completely said like I didn't have insurance for years. They were like, I've been paying you, but they would not have covered me. So that was terrifying. And now I do not have State Farm anymore. I have trust issues. But just knowing and like making sure, because when I remember getting the insurance the first time, I remember them struggling with it because when you insure it as a camper van, a lot of places can have issues with that. And they sent me like between like 8 different people before they finally were like, yeah. And I kind of felt maybe it was a little fishy, but I'm like, but they said yes. So like it's there, I'm paying the money, of course they'll cover it. But they told me they would not have covered it. So really trusting your gut when you get your insurance, because I mean, I've put so much money into this new van and I put so much time into it, and the idea of totaling it and having to do it all over again is terrifying. So that can be one of the most important things because, I mean, at this point, if I totaled my van, like a van life would be kind of over. So that's definitely a way to make sure you do not ruin van life. Talking about safety and build safety, so like a carbon monoxide detector, fire extinguisher, circulating air. It can be really important to make sure you're circulating air in your van because it's really good for your lungs. And if you've ever tested the air in a camper van when you don't circulate air, which I did randomly one day, it's not great. Like you need to have that circulating air. So having not just a max air fan, but a window or 2 fans, that way the air is going in and out, can be really healthy for you and making sure that your body is healthy as well when you're living in the van. Personal safety, which to me goes with not ruining van life, because if I'm worried about my safety, then I'm having anxiety every night when I'm sleeping. And I love like New York City. Like I've camped in New York City, I've done Boston. I like to do scary cities just because I think it's fun, but it can be scary. I mean, that's the turnoff. I camped in Philadelphia one singular night, and I learned my lesson. There was gunshots right next to me, and I had parked right next to a penitentiary, the Eastern State Penitentiary, so that might have been on me. But it was really cool because it was a castle, so give and take. But knowing safety, so that way when you're going to sleep every night, you don't have anxiety, like you're not building up anxiety of years and years of traveling. I know a lot of people like campgrounds. I'm not a campground person, so it actually is really easy to city camp. People always make it sound really hard, and between iOverlander and then I just keep like a list. Like I'll be like, okay, hotels. If you're stealth, you can camp at hotels. You can camp at Cracker Barrels. You can just you can park side of the street. And I used to be so scared of getting a knock. I would get a knock and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm getting arrested right now. They just ask you to leave. That's all that happens. Like I was so scared. My heart would start pounding. I had a cop once open my door. Like he came up to my door, and I waved at him through the window, and then he just opened my door, and I was like, oh, I think that's illegal. And it was. But what happened was I parked near a children's playground by a back street, because I was in Salem, Massachusetts, and there was a playground up there, and some mom had called that there was a suspicious white van. So now I've learned we don't park near playgrounds with a white van, with an unmarked white van. So it was fair. I understood why she did it. I'd probably, be also concerned. So over time, you learn those things that I never would have thought of that before. Also, when it comes to not burning out, making it really easy to take care of yourself in the van. I know running water, having showers, all those things. My sink is broken right now, so I brush my teeth in a cup, which it can make you, after a while, it can make you kind of feel like when people call, I'm a full-time van lifer, sometimes people are like, oh, it's basically being homeless, and then when you brush your teeth in a cup, you're like, I'm starting to understand why you're saying that. So taking care of yourself and having ways but also not thinking that about yourself. I have a lot of friends who say that they feel that way when they've been living in a van full time for so long, and knowing and keeping that list, I was saying, of all of the great things that van life provides. That way when you are brushing your teeth in a cup, and pouring water out of a water bottle onto your toothbrush, you're like, well, at least I'm not paying rent. At least I don't have to go to a job today. Like, there's definitely a lot of perks to van life that make things like that worth it. Having friendships on the road can definitely be something that can make it difficult, or I sometimes wonder, like, oh, when I lived back home, I had like a friend group and we would do things, but now all my friends are all over the country and they're all doing different things, and a lot of them live in vans, so we're always just like all over and we never really cross paths that often. So doing things like finding groups, like when I lived in Las Vegas, I joined a bike group and we biked the Las Vegas Strip at midnight, and it was incredible, and it was like a weekly thing. So I would go back and I would meet people, and I made that friend group, even though I was in a city where I knew no one. So joining groups and talking to people, being places like this and meeting people who understand the lifestyle make you feel a little less alone when you're on the road so much. Okay, so then I have like a list that I just felt like, I know a lot of this is a little bit like fluff van life stuff, so I just wanted to talk about some of the things that I feel like over time I found have been like the best resources while living on the road. Just because I think that's probably what you guys want to know the most. So the best resource that I found like 2 months ago is an app called PlugShare. So if you have like a battery that you don't feel like is enough and your system just isn't getting enough, you can actually use this app called PlugShare, and it will tell you where public outlets are that you're allowed to go plug your van in at. So I plugged in at a pizza shop. I went in, I got a pizza, and plugged in at a pizza shop. I went back to 100% from like 20%, and you're allowed to just go do that. And I always thought I had to get a campground for years. So I'd be like, I don't want to spend $100 to go camp at a campground to refill. But if you get the app PlugShare, you can, I mean, just a bunch of random places. Where else have I charged? There was one at a Cracker Barrel, and they're usually for EV chargers, so you have to go on there and you have to select just a regular wall charger. But I've been using that, and it's completely saved me, because something else, another mistake that I made recently is an electrical company that I had install my batteries. I said, I want 800 amp hours, and they're like, that's way too much. You only need 400. And I'm like, I did the math, and I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, so I really think I want 800. And they're like, no, 400. And for some reason, they were so persistent on it. And I was like, well, you're the professionals. You guys know. And I don't have enough battery, and it dies all of the time. So trusting yourself, even if a professional is kind of telling you something, and going with your gut and knowing what you need is really important for sure. Another resource that I've used lately is Wi-Fi Map. It's another app, and it just tells you Wi-Fi passwords. So instead of having to go into a Panera or a Starbucks and ask for the password, you can just like park right in front and use the app, and it will even automatically connect you to the Wi-Fi when you get there. So it's really nice. You don't have to ask people, because I know sometimes like asking is, you don't want to feel like you're mooching if you're not. You don't even have to buy anything. You can just sit there, and I know we're supposed to buy things, but when you have to get Wi-Fi all the time, that adds up. So you can just park in front and use their Wi-Fi, and it's really nice. It's called Wi-Fi Map. It's an app. Yes, it's really, really nice. I've been using it all the time now.
Wi-Fi map or app?
Map, M-A-P.
But it is an app.
It is an app, yeah. It rhymes. Something else that I started doing, when I started van life, I used to write in a notebook everywhere that I slept at night. That way I'd remember if I ever went back. And that was very inefficient, because it's just like writing it down. But you can actually go on Google Maps, the app, and you can make a saved list of everywhere that you've gone that you want to go. And so every morning when I wake up somewhere new, I mark it in Google Maps. That way when I go back to that area, I already have spots that I know are good, or they're bad. Like if I went somewhere and something happened, or it was just really loud, I mark that as well. And so now when I go back to areas, because I go back all the time, like I've been in Tampa for the last month, I have like 8 different spots that I just kind of travel around to, and I use my own notes. I know iOverlander is so incredible and everyone uses it, but a lot of people that I know don't like to put their personal spots that they find on there, just because then it blows up and then you can't use it anymore. So having your own kind of version of iOverlander that you can use and reference has been so great. So if you just go into Google Maps, select your spot, and then press save, you can make your own iOverlander of sorts. 2 other things are more of products that I found lately that I really like. I'm a stealth camper, so my van, I try to make it look as least camper van as possible. And so I don't have enough electrical, as I was saying. I feel like I don't have enough. So I recently got a thing called a solar blanket, because I already have my whole roof pretty much covered in solar panels and a roof deck, so I just don't have enough room to add more solar panels. But I got a thing called a solar blanket that opens up, and it's like, I think it's 400 or 500 watts of solar, and I can just lay it out. So I can go to a park for a day and just lay it out and get more solar instead of having to have like the hard panels that take up a lot of space. It folds down like really small. I don't have anything for reference, but it folds down really small and I get so much wattage from it, and it's just like plug and play as well. But for me, the hard panels, I have like the DJI hard panels, and 600 watts was taking up way too much space. And then I got the solar blanket, and it takes up way less space because I know storage is really important in van life. Something else I got as a stealth camper that I really liked lately is the moonshade. I love awnings. I've always wanted an awning. I've always looked at them very jealously, but as a stealth camper, I couldn't have an awning. And Moonshade has one that completely comes off, and you can't even see it on the side of the van. Like, you take it all off, so you can have an awning and you can still be stealth. And I bought that like last month, and I've been very excited about it because being stealth, there's so many different things that go into it. And I was really excited about it. But I think that's all of my notes. So if anyone has any questions, or people ask me a lot about like YouTube and social media with van life. So if you want to ask me about that, I'm open to any questions if anyone has any.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you're traveling, how far do you travel each day, and do you stay like multiple days, or is there like some tips on that?
Yeah, so it really depends. Sorry, I'm supposed to repeat the question. He told me to repeat the question. When I'm traveling, how long do I stay somewhere, and what does it depend on? When I'm traveling, it depends on whether or not I have a part-time job or if I'm working in social media, because my first few years of van life were, I had a part-time job, and I would just like live in that city for 6 months. So I was a actress at the Salem Witch Dungeon for 6 months, and I lived in the Salem has this beautiful like parkway, and I just lived in this like beautiful open grassy area, and I walked to work every day, and my job was to be a witch and scare people, and I got paid to do that, but I didn't get paid a lot, and I could only have done it if I lived in the van, which is why the van was so great. But then I would literally only leave that spot to get water, take a shower, go to the grocery store, and I would just live there, and I lived there for like 6 months. But that worked because Salem was so busy with tourists during October. So it's really knowing the spot and thinking about, like, is this going to be somewhere where they are going to come and knock if I stay here too long? Like, I lived in a parking lot for 6 months when I lived in Vermont, the same parking lot. And it's a little bit of knowing. Right now when I was in Tampa, I'm bouncing back and forth between like 8 different spots every single night because they are side of the road, they are Cracker Barrels. So thinking about what are those standards and rules, but also like sometimes it's a little bit of testing and knowing and getting comfortable with what you're doing.
So if you're in Florida right now, and you're going back up to Massachusetts to get there, how far? Like, would you stop every day? Would you drive 8 hours? Would you be only 5 hour like limit? What does that look like?
The really great thing about van life is that it's different every time, and I can just choose randomly. For me, at least. I do have a cat now in my van, and so I do have to make stops all the time because she doesn't like driving, and that's very new, and I'm still learning the ropes of that. But yeah, I make stops a lot. I don't like to risk driving at night with my van because I worked so long on it, and I know how expensive it is, and I know like accidents in the dark are more likely to happen, or if I'm tired, so I'm so careful with my van. I met a guy earlier this week who was telling me every time he leaves his van, he puts on a steering wheel lock and a wheel tire lock every time he leaves his van because he's like, just in case. And he has a thing on his phone that tells him whenever like his car turns on, that way like if someone's stealing it, he knows immediately. And I was like, maybe I'm not taking the safety, and like I have video cameras on all 4 sides. I've got like 3 trackers. I've got everything under the sun. There's a company back there called Berna, and I bought one of those. It's nice because I know it's a live stream, so I don't want to use certain words. What is?
It's a launcher.
A launcher. It's a launcher, but it looks like the real thing, and I feel like that's escalated my safety and how I feel about safety. So, just taking like safety and how I feel to the max extreme. But I've learned that I could be doing better. But I don't really know. It changes every single time. It's a little bit of a hard question. I'm sorry. If anyone has any experiences as well of things that they feel like they've burnt out from van life, or ways they feel like, or a mistake that you made, I think like community and sharing experiences is so great. Anything to add at all would be helpful to anyone else here.
So is your main source of revenue like through YouTube? And if so,
So the question was how I make money doing YouTube and if I do affiliates and how I maximize the revenue through that. So I've done a lot of different things with social media. I started out as the social media manager for Project Vanlife, and they paid me monthly. And then through making their content, which I got that job because I had one random viral video of my van tour and they reached out to me. That's kind of how that job started. And I've found that's a really great way to make money through social media, is making other people's content. But then from there, I kind of launched my own channel and page, and now it started out with I would reach out to companies to get sponsors and get ads, and then if I liked that product, I have to like pitch them my page and whatnot. But now companies come to me and they come out through my email, and we just go back and forth and they pitch prices and products, and shipping products is extremely difficult now that I'm on the road, which is I don't think people think about it. Like the companies don't think about it. It's like I give them a PO box and they're like, or a general delivery address, and they're like, we can't do that. And I'm like, well, what did you? I live in a van. How did you think you were going to get this to me? So that has been a quite interesting thing to refigure out. Affiliates, I do not make much money through affiliates, and I feel like a lot of the people that I know don't. I have an Orion roof rack, and I have an affiliates through them, which every time I sell a roof rack, I get like $300. So even though I've only sold like 3 or 4, that's still a good chunk of money. So I found when I do affiliates for smaller products, it's like, okay, I get $3 from that. It's like not even a coffee right now. So I found if I do affiliates for bigger products, that helps, because even if I sell one, it's magnitude. If you're looking at going into social media and you want to do affiliates or you want to do products with companies, looking up websites that there's a bunch of different ones, I'm like blanking on the names right now, where they list companies that are looking for people to make content for them, and they'll give you products and they'll like tell you how much it is already, and it's just really easy to, that's what I started out making money from, was doing that and just reaching out to companies that way. How else do I make money on social media right now? I used to make money through YouTube AdSense, and then they copyrighted 3/4 of my music, so now I'm a little bit scared to do that because I was relying on that revenue. I made about $2,000 a month through YouTube AdSense, and now I make like $200 because they copyrighted half of my content. Lesson of that, epidemic sound, if you use music, will back you and keep your music, that if anything ever happens, they'll make sure that you're not getting copyrighted and losing your revenue. I was not using them, so I regret that. Epidemic sound. So it's a little bit expensive, but I thought it was worth it in the end, because when I lost $2,000 a month, it was definitely would have been nice if they could have backed me and helped me with that. Besides that, that's all the ways I made money through social media. I used to have a safety business where I would sell keychains that had safety devices for women, and that was a great way of making revenue. I would make posts on social media, and I wouldn't say I made like $15 per sale, but then at least it was like I was fully doing it myself. I would promote it and whatnot. So I've also made money that way. I think that's all the ways. Yeah?
How do you keep your food, or what you eat, how you eat, 3 meals a day, interesting instead of like the same old every day?
That is a great question. I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that question. So the question was, how do I keep food interesting when living in a van, like not having the same foods? I do eat the same foods. I eat salmon and chicken like every meal because my cat likes it and I like to make her happy. So I wish I had a more helpful answer. I'm sorry. Yeah?
When you street park, do you put up windshield shades and side shades, or do you not, because that gives it away?
I thought about this for so long. That's a great question. So the question was, when I park and I'm stealth camping, do I put up window covers? I thought the same thing for years. Once you put up the window covers, everyone knows you're in there. So in my first van, I did do that. And then I want to say 3/4 of the way through, I started just using my divider curtain, and I put a safety hat in front and a safety vest. And I have a sign that looks like a caution sign, but it's actually a flux capacitor sign. And so I try to make it look like it was a safety vehicle. And then in the second van, I thought the same, I had to fix this problem. And so I put in a partition door, and it fixed everything. To me, now I close the door and it looks like a work van, but the partition door, I would say, is the smartest upgrade I made in the entire new van, because yes, it adds to the stealth. It adds to the protection because I can lock it from both sides. There's like there's a pin I can put in. but also the temperature difference. It's insane how, like, I open that door and like I either get hit with like a gust of heat or like freezing cold air. There's less condensation in the back, which leads to less mold. It's also just better to be living in there without as much condensation in the back. So I would say that was one of the best choices for so many reasons, and it fixed that problem. Yeah.
So where do you consider your hometown?
Where do I consider my hometown was the question. So for my first few years of van life, I would just use my parents' address. And when I like lived in Salem, I would just say I lived in Salem, and I would just make answers up every time because it was always changing. But now I went through America's mailbox in South Dakota, and I have South Dakota plates, and I have a general delivery address through them. And that's worked out really well. So now I just say I'm a South Dakota resident, even though I've been there for only 24 hours. And I can get mail sported through there, and I've had no problems with that. So that's kind of where I say I'm a resident now.
So other question, this is on an accounting standpoint. So are you able to write off like anything dealing with your van because you are a social media person and you're having to go around? So therefore, if you're going to do your income taxes, you're going to have your income, the W-2s are going to be reported to the IRS, and then you're going to write off your expenses to try to get to zero so you don't have to pay any taxes. How did you work that out? That was kind of the question.
Yeah, so the question was, how do I do taxes as a social media person? How much of the van do I write off? Is that summing it up well? Okay. I definitely have counted almost everything in the new van build as something that I'm doing as a write-off because I'm filming everything. And also, when I film something like I have a Vanlife Tech heated floor, I went out to their shop. I drove all the way to Oregon from Pennsylvania, worked with the company. They put it in. They put in the heater, and I put in the floor, and I filmed it. So to me, it's like that, and it's also I have an affiliate link, so that I could be making money off that in a way. So I do write that off. I write off almost everything. I try not to write off things like the screws and whatnot because I don't want to raise any like red flags. And it is a percentage of which it is personal, but it is really a work vehicle for me at this point. The first one I didn't count as anything of that sort because I didn't do social media until 3/4 of the way through, but then I believe you can actually count it as like office space in a way. I've seen people do that. But as far as taxes, I did write off most of it because I can make money off of most of the things in my van build. And if I wasn't making social media videos, I started out with just a mattress in the back, and I was totally happy with that. So it is like it wouldn't be as fancy as it was if I wasn't making social media videos. So I feel like that justifies it being a tax write-off, if that answers the question.
How do you stay physically fit?
I eat a lot of candy, and I'm 29. I don't really go to the gym. This is, again, not a good question for me. I feel really bad. All of my friends right now would be like, she drinks Mountain Dew and eats nerd gummies all day, and we're not really sure. But I do find living in the van, like I have like an Aura ring, and it tells me that I like take like 12 steps in a full day sometimes, because when you're living in a van, you've got just a hallway. So if you don't leave that van, you've not moved. Like you can crawl out of bed and open the fridge. Like you don't have to do much movement. So I definitely think that I understand that like fitness and moving, I've been thinking about it more as the ring tells me like you should move more today, and like 5 times in one day. So I definitely think that's something that should be thought about when living in a van. Any other questions? Or comments or experiences? Yeah.
What do your parents think?
Well, when I started car camping with nothing in the car, I would just recline the chair, and I think I was in Tampa when I started car camping, and I would just like put a blanket over me because I didn't know about window covers or anything, because back then van life hadn't really taken off, like social media hadn't really like picked it up, so I didn't know I could even look on social media. Like in a crazy way, I was like, I've invented this new thing where I'm sleeping in my car and like I don't have to pay for hotels, like I'm a genius. And then no, it was a complete accident. I was at a Taylor Swift concert, and I fell asleep in my car waiting for traffic to die down. And I woke up at like 3 a.m, and I was like, I'm still in Tampa. I can go explore. Like this is a great life hack. And then I started car camping every weekend and traveling further and further. So She didn't love that because back then I would, and this is going to sound crazy, I would wake up in the middle of the night and have dreams that I was burning alive because the van or the car was like so hot because I had no heating, I had no cooling, and I was like hiding in the seats to make sure no one could see me. So I knew I loved the idea, but I was like, I got to do this better, which is why I got a van. And so she just is constantly like checking my location on Life 360 and like, okay, you got your security cameras on. Where are you? Are you sure it's safe? Like, never be hesitant to move. You know, always giving me tips. Worried, but she has an RV, so she definitely understands in a way the lifestyle.
Any other apps that you use?
Yeah, let me open up my phone. I think I actually have it. When I make videos, I like have constant notes in here, and I know I have. Oh, here it is. I made a list called 7 Best Apps for Vanlifers. So first was Open Wi-Fi, which we talked about, Plug Share, Gas Buddy, so saving money on gas because, you know, these vehicles eat gas. Camping apps like iOverlander, Google Maps, which I mentioned as well. One weird one, when you live in a van, I find everything gets messy really quick. And for me, I love clothes, so my closet gets really messy. And I've done this really weird thing. There's an app called Closetly, and I marked I took pictures of all my clothes. That way I can stop pulling things out of the closet because it's so smushed in there. And I'd pull things out, and then my van would be a mess. Because you leave one sweater on like your table, and like your whole van looks like it's a disaster. And that's van life. So I started using that. Other apps that I have a bunch of cat apps. Like I have Tractive for my cat, so I can track her no matter what because I'm always nervous she's going to get out. She's not an outdoor cat, so that has been interesting in the least. People were like, you can't have an adult cat and have her get into van life because she's not going to be ready. She just likes attention, so as long as I give her attention, she doesn't care where she is, which is great. So, but she has a very small Tractive tracker. And I have the Waggle cam, so I can watch her in the van when I'm away, and I have the Waggle pet monitor, so I can see the temperature in there. So if like it got too hot in there right now, I would get an alert on my phone, which is nice because I definitely overthink about her a lot.
What was the closet app?
It's called Closetly. It's like an LY at the end. But there's a bunch of them. That's the one I use. It just keeps me organized a little better. I wrote down something to tell you your altitude, which I wrote that down. I don't have one yet because I don't really go anywhere with altitudes. I like cities. But just because if you use your heater at certain altitudes or things in your van sometimes need that, so having a way to tell you your altitude to keep you safe. Let's see. Oh, I think this is actually also a list of lists I made in Google Maps that help me. So I have a list of all of the post offices that do general delivery because they don't all do it, and you have to go in and ask every time. And if you've ever called the post office, it's so difficult. Like they send you to like the biggest person possible, and then you're like, no, I just want to talk to the Tampa branch, like this one, and like they can't connect you with it. So I always feel like I have to go in. So I have a Google map of all of the post offices with general delivery. I think that's all the ones I got, I think. Yeah.
How do you date on the road?
That is a difficult question. The question was, how do I date on the road? I don't. I just broke up with my boyfriend of 2 years very recently. And it was partly, like van life can be difficult in relationships. Especially if the person doesn't also have a van. They found before dating me that a lot of girls would be like, well, when are you going to stop? When are you going to sell the van? Or people would be like, like girls would just not like the van he found, or ask him when he's going to stop. And for me, I don't feel like I've had that issue, but I do find that like I have so much freedom right now. I can go anywhere, and there's literally nothing stopping me. And so with my relationship, like he wanted to go somewhere, and I was like, well, Daytona 500, I really want to go. And so it's like you want to be able to choose where you want to go when we have so much freedom. And so it can be difficult for sure. I haven't figured out how that works yet, but if I ever do, I'll let you know. Any other questions? Or, yeah?
You stop like in a Cracker Barrel. Do you have a routine you go through where you know where the exit is, your keys are by the ignition? What do you do for the security?
Like a routine of inside my van? Yeah. I used to. Like on good days I do, you know? On a good day when I get there, I make sure my cat's all situated first. And I have to move a lot of things when I drive because things fall, things move. My cat's water has to be moved around, so it's just kind of situating things. But it's actually really not that complicated or overthought for me. I like to make everything done in one step. That's something I learned in my first van, is I used to have everything need so many steps to happen. And I remember with my stove, I would never cook because my stove was like a 5-step thing. I'd have to get it out from under the bed, and then I'd have to clear off the counter and put it in a specific spot. And I was just like, that's too much work, and I never cooked. So in this van, I really focused on making sure that everything was like one step, super easy. I wouldn't have to think about it or have like these high routines, because van life, everything becomes so much more complicated. Like, you have to hand wash all your dishes. You have to go somewhere else to do your laundry, all those kinds of things. So anything I can do to minimize routines or tasks always helps just kind of avoid burnout. Now that I have the partition door, I don't have to do things like putting up the window covers. That used to be a routine. Making sure my van looks stealth, that there's no light peeping through, is always a big one. But besides that, I love to get wherever I'm parking as late as possible. Like, I'll sit in a random parking lot until 10 o'clock and then go wherever I'm gonna camp, like right when I'm about to fall asleep. That way I'm not a problem, I'm not there very long, I'm less likely to get a knock. If I am in that city a while, I can go back there and keep reusing that spot because I'm not really being seen. So I just try to, like, wherever I'm sleeping, I like don't wanna take advantage of that spot very long. I wanna be there as short as possible. So I don't know that I have too much of a routine, I'm sorry. Any other questions or comments?
Amazon Locker? Or,
Yes.
And is it successful? Do you end up having to wait around for extra days, that kind of thing? Does it work?
I know I'm not supposed to love Amazon, but goodness gracious, I could not live without it. Because I mean, general delivery can be difficult, and I did like one general delivery recently, and the post office was like, but don't do it too often and don't do anything too big. And then I think the other day I had like 8 packages to an Amazon locker, and they have all come in on time. They've all been really easy. I just like press a button when I get there and the locker opens up, like 8 different ones. And I find it so nice because it's the only way I feel like I'm not doing a lot to have to get packages, because with general delivery, you gotta call in, you gotta ask, they don't tell you when it's there, so you gotta check in, and then maybe you show up and it's not there. So yeah, I use the Amazon lockers a lot for sure, and I've never had a single problem. I was somewhere in like Massachusetts, I think, and I got there and I opened the locker and there was nothing in it, and it was an expensive thing I had bought that time. And I was like, oh, I'm in trouble, because like they're gonna blame me for it, I'm not gonna get my money back. I called Amazon and they were like, okay, we'll refund you, we'll send you a new one. And I was like, this is why I love Amazon. I know I'm not supposed to, but yeah?
I just want to say thank you. 2 years ago, I stumbled on your videos on YouTube, and you and 2 others gave me a lot of ideas for my damage it yourself van. So, thank you.
I love that. He called it a damaging it yourself van, and that's incredible. I'm so glad. That's why I make the videos. I think my goal when I make videos is more so to be like, you don't have to know what you're doing to get into van building, because I remember my first van build, I went into my garage to practice putting screws into wood, and I think about that now and I'm like, you didn't know how to put a screw into wood. Like, I have a video of me like using a drill for the first time and being like, wow, like look at me go. Like, it was really simple.
They made me laugh too.
I'm glad. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's what I make it for. Yeah?
What are some of your must-haves that you found that you really use daily for van living?
So you asked what my must-haves are. So I would say now one of my must-haves is the partition door. It was one of the smartest things I did. It's so much easier than putting up window covers every night. Like, when I used to put up window covers, I would get anywhere and I'd be like, I gotta put them up so people can't see in. I was worried about like light coming through. The partition door is so easy and so nice, and it just makes the temperature regulation so much better. I use that every day, and every day I'm so thankful that I put it in, even though I had no idea how to make that. There were no good videos online of how to make a partition door, and I just made it up as I went. But it was definitely one of the smartest things I put in. My last van didn't have an AC, and I had to live by the temperature, and I had to follow around the weather. And I thought, like, that's fine. I don't mind doing that, but that really, it dictates your life. And so the AC was very expensive, and the install, van builders are very expensive. It was so painfully expensive, but I have a cat now, so I don't really have a choice. I have to have an AC. So I think that was something that now that I have it, I'm like, I can't go back to not having it, because I think it's interesting in the ways, I was talking about like air circulation earlier, that, and like you can kind of like beat yourself up if you're not taking care of yourself in the van and not having the proper things. So the AC is definitely good. Must-haves, let's see, what do I use every day? I didn't have a freezer in my first van, and I really regretted that. I thought I was fine without it. It was actually a really big deal. I think so much of making a van is like knowing yourself. It's going to be different for every person, and I thought I could be fine with like the minimum, and I definitely needed a freezer, partly because I worked at Ben & Jerry's, and they gave out 3 free pints a day, and I had nowhere to put any of them. So that was devastating. I used to live in Vermont in the winter when I worked there, and I would put it out in the snow just to keep it cold during the night. Must-haves. I don't have a bathroom in my van because I'm a stealth camper. So I mean, we have bathrooms here. I'm usually at a gym. I can go in there. And I tried it once. I tried having a bathroom in my van, and emptying it is really gross. And I always feel weird about like talking about this. It's such a weird thing to talk. It's like so used to, like in van life, everyone's like talking about it all the time. I haven't gotten used to it yet. I straight use water bottles. Like I use water bottles, and I just throw the water bottle out. There's no cleaning, there's no smells, there's no problems. And I've been doing that for years, and it's just so much easier and nicer. It takes up like no storage space, because I had made a giant drawer for a toilet to go in originally, and then I realized I was using a giant drawer that I could use for storage, and I just didn't think it was worth it for me. But I've tried so many things throughout the years, and so that's kind of how I've learned it. There's just so much trial and error. Everyone that I've met who's been doing van life for so long even still has, trial and error. It's never fully done. Anything else, or comments, or anyone wants to share anything that they've learned throughout the years?
So you don't have a shower either?
No, I also don't have a shower. I chose to not have a shower because I have seen the mold issues they cause, and I know that can be a controversial thing that people want to have it anyway. But showers that have been ripped out after a while, like the mold problems, and then worried about breathing in the mold. And I usually, I'm not that picky about my own health, but my cat, I'm like, I don't want her to breathe in the mold. She has to be so safe. She's going to live forever. So I didn't want to do it. But also, I have a lot of hair. So for me, to shower, I know they make recirculating water showers now, which I did not know about when I made that choice for the second van. But we would, half the van would be a water tank if I wanted to shower in my van. So I love Planet Fitness. It's really cheap, really easy. And unlimited water, though sometimes it's cold water, and I have a thing on my phone and my Google Maps of cold showers at Planet Fitnesses. That way I never go back to those Planet Fitnesses.
And you get to exercise while you're at Planet Fitness.
I could. I always feel guilty.
Candy bar, which is
Eating a candy bar as I walk past them on the treadmill. Yeah. They give out Tootsie Rolls, and I've always been like, who's eating them at the gym? And it's me. I'm the people. Any other questions or concerns or comments? Anyone who's had any experiences or almost burnt out of van life, or things that have hurt them, their experiences, and want to share your own stories? Anything? Betty, after the animatronic Yeti in Expedition Everest in Disney World. And the person who started the witch trials is also named Betty. So, multi-purpose name. Hi.
What Planet Fitness membership do you have? 'Cause I don't have one yet. Do you get the regular or the black?
I got the black because I go to more than one. So if you go to more than one gym, you have to have the black. If you like massages and tanning, they also have that. I hear they have exercise equipment, but I haven't checked that out yet.
What's your YouTube channel?
Yeah, my YouTube channel is just my name, Tory Delury. It's Torydelyy. And I make fan build videos, but a little bit of traveling as well, and just trying to, I don't know what I'm trying to do, actually. I'm just doing it, you know? All right. Is that it? Well, thank you so much for letting me ramble at you. Hopefully it was helpful in some way, or you got something from it.